Ooh, baby, ooh, baby. It's time to talk about Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning. Now, I know that this is a film that is very divided in the horror community, especially with Friday the 13th fans. Some love it, some despise it. But I am on the side of loving it. Hence why I wore my Roy's Revenge Midnight Madness Fright Rag shirt. It's got Pam down here. It's got Reggie the Reckless. Oh man, I'm a big fan of this movie. So, I like that in this film that, 1 through 4 is Jason, and he very clearly dies at the end. And in this one, instead of just bringing him back from the dead or whatever, they did something risky and they had it be a copycat. And also, they tried to make it seem throughout this film that Tommy was the killer. Maybe he was wearing, you don't even see anybody that it's Jason until the last 15 minutes of this movie. So you never really see who's killing anyone. So you think, and even when you see Jason, Tommy's nowhere to be found, and he has a mask collection. So he could have made himself a new mask and was killing. So when you see Tommy, you're like, oh shit, it's not Tommy. Maybe it is Jason. And I think maybe that's where they lost the audience. I think they would have lost him anyways. All the people who want it to be Jason. Does it really matter if it's Jason or not? Not really. If you were to just at the end of this say that was Jason, just in the last minute of this movie, I bet you the majority of people who dislike this movie would be like, oh yeah, it's another really good one in the series. So it's literally, most of the people. Now, of course, there will be some people out there who just didn't like the movie for any, even if it was Jason. But for the majority, as I said, I do believe that this is a film that would have been enjoyed more by people if it just ended up being Jason. But I love that they did something risky, that they did something new, because even though I do love the next film, Jason Lives, the whole idea of zombie Jason getting struck by lightning and coming back from the grave, it's fun, but it's silly and ridiculous. Of course, these movies are, and that's okay. But I love the idea of this, and they even leave it off to where Tommy would be the next Jason if this would have ended up working and hitting better with audiences. And I would have been fine with that. I like when killers or villains or anybody in movies are, vulnerable to, injury, death, whatnot. Even though I do like superhero movies, all the Avengers type movies and whatnot, one of the big problems I end up having with them is that Superman and these characters they're unkillable. There's nothing that can really harm them, and they're not going to die in them. But even some of those are literally like the Hulk or something, where you can't even kill them, so there's no stakes in it, and there's no way for these characters to fight back. Now, I get it that these films are you're just there for the kills, you're just there for the this and that, and that the people aren't going to be able to defend themselves. But I do like a little bit more of an even fight, that the person has a chance. It gives me just a little bit more hope for them that they can defeat them. Once it gets into Friday the 13th 6 through the rest of them, Jason is an unkillable machine. And it's just kind of it just then becomes fun. And that's how those films get. Anyway, I'll talk more about 6 when I get to it. Let's get into this movie. I have a ton to say, of course. I love that Corey Feldman reprises his role in the opening scene, even though it's kind of more of a dream flashback. We have a decent amount of fake outs in this. So we'll get to the other ones here, but it's just cool to see Corey. I do like that all of these films, 1 through 8, acknowledge previous installments by basically, starting where the last one left off. And unlike the last 3 installments, this one jumps years into the future. Now it starts kind of where the last one leaves us, at least it feels like it, because you see Corey Feldman as young Corey Feldman still. So you're wondering how far in time this is. Is this a week? Is this a month? And then it flashes forward years. How old Tommy is in this film, I'm not sure. He looks like he's maybe 17, 16. I mean, he's still being controlled by the state and being in halfway houses, but a lot of those kids look older anyway, so I'm not really sure what Tommy's age is, and they don't really give a date. I find it funny because the last film is supposed to be set in 1984. This is supposed to be at least 5-6 years in the future, and everything is still clearly like early 80s, but whatevs, or mid 80s, I guess. I love that this is set in a boarding house for troubled kids. It just makes sense that Tommy would be so mentally unstable after what happened to him. It's never really clear what happens to Trish. They don't say in this, and I don't think they say in the next one. And we're never clear on if his mother lives, Mrs. Jarvis lives. More than likely she's dead. I think that she is. But it is never elaborated to my knowledge that Trish is where she is, how she's doing, whatnot. It would have been nice to see her in some capacity, maybe a phone call, a letter, any acknowledgement of her outside of her voice yelling Tommy. So that's a little bit of a bummer. And as I said, because Tommy is in 4, 5, and 6, not having any real mention of her in 5 or 6 is just kind of a little bit of a letdown, with her being his only family. Ethel, there's so many, I think that 4 on has just such great characters. Like the first 3 for me, they're fun films and I very much enjoy them, but there's not a lot of standout characters in those. And I think that 4 through 8 have really fun, memorable characters, and this film is definitely one of those for sure. No exception here. Ethel is just hilarious to me. Pretty much everything she says in this film is funny. And, Junior in the background yelling, "You get him, Ma!" and all that. And she just yelling shit at him, putting him down, and he just accepts it. And literally every line she says, I have to laugh at pretty much every time. Poor Joey. Poor Joey. This is a film that has a lot of, this film has a lot of kills. Some are dreams. Some are other characters. Most are done by a copycat. One might be done by, the main protagonist. So you got a lot of different deaths in this, as opposed to it all just being Jason getting the lion's share. You get it like a dream Jason killing the first 2 guys. You get Vic killing Joey, which you don't really see many people killing other people in these kinds of movies. Like, Vic just loses it. And I do find it to be kind of ironic and hilarious that Vic killing Joey, who Joey ends up being, Roy's son, sets Roy off to then go out and start killing everybody. And he kills pretty much everyone involved in the vicinity outside of the guy who killed his son. That is just too ridiculous to me. It's hilarious. It's like, what an idiot. Why would he not just go after Vic? He has to take it out on everyone who was around, who had any kind of connection to it, and some that don't have any connection to it at all, like the 2 little punk rock type kids that are in their cars. Why he goes after all these people instead of just trying to kill Vic makes no sense, but who cares? Something I absolutely have to mention. Why would they give Vic an axe? I mean, these kids are clearly troubled, and Vic is clearly unstable. Why they would give that guy an axe? Maybe he's had it for a while, and he's been trusted. Who knows? He finally lost it. Doesn't know. I don't know. Roy in this movie, I think, because everyone's expecting it to be Jason, and everyone also, is like, oh, I wonder if it's going to be Tommy. Is it going to be Tommy or Jason? they don't notice the very, very hard foreshadowing that this is Roy. There is lots of close-ups of his face, like, he's like all super mad, and they do it a couple times in this. And then after the first kill, Roy seems to be like excited and like more upbeat and happy. So it's pretty obvious that it's Roy once you watch it, for the second time. I've seen it way more than 2. I've seen it literally probably like 100 times. This is one I've seen a lot. This is probably the one I've seen the most of all of them, believe it or not. But that's because I had my brothers and I watched this one. We had a few movies that we watched all the time together, and this just so happened to be one of them. I love that Tommy is, instead of like a cowering little, broken thing, he is aggressive and physical. Like, he beats the shit out of a few people in this movie. Like, anyone gives him grief, he just goes straight for the fist and starts knocking heads. And I just like that. I like that his character isn't like weak and, broken, where he's like sitting in a corner like, oh my God, is Jason gonna come get me? This dude's ready to rock fucking hard, man. He is ready to throw down for literally any reason. He beats the shit out of people for very small reasons. And I really like it. Seriously, Lana, the waitress, is with Billy. Wow, that's a stretch for me. Does anyone ever think that? I'm guessing it's because they're on drugs, and girls will fuck anyone for drugs. Not all girls, obviously. Don't take me wrong here. But has anyone else ever thought that Billy? And when I was a kid, I was convinced that Billy was the Micro Machine guy. Anybody else? Am I alone on that? He looks exactly like the Micro Machine guy, and I cannot help but think it every single time every time I see him. Another great thing about this movie, outside of there being an abundance of kills, there's 22 kills in this film, there is tons of gratuitous nudity. Just like 3 chicks get naked, and then Pam is in a wet white shirt. You can clearly see her tits through it. Oh, it's great. Movies like this are meant for these kinds of things: gore, kills, graphic nudity, like gratuitous. Like, come on, this is one of the main reasons people like it, and it's such good shit too. Those are some great scenes. Tina's got some great assets, which never gets old. I also really like the music, and I really like the music in this series. This one's a little bit different, and I think this whole film is a little bit different. And I'll get into other reasons why here. I like, in Jason's visions, like when Tommy sees Jason in this movie, I like that they're differences. Like, I like that they made Roy's mask, with the blue little triangles, and Jason's mask looks like Jason's mask from, the last one. And when there's a close-up at the very end, when Tommy sees him at the foot of his hospital bed, you can see that he has the wound across his head where Tommy drove the machete in. And it was like, oh, that's a really cool little attention to detail, even though that's like Ghost Jason or Spirit Jason or whatever. And I guess it's entering Tommy at the end. And I don't know if there's 2 fake outs. We'll get to that. But anyway, I like that. I like the way Jason looked at the end. I like that it was so different. Really enjoy the conversation between the mayor and the sheriff about the sheriff trying to get him to believe that Jason Voorhees is back, and the mayor just being like, you're out of your fucking mind. Like, I really enjoy that conversation. It definitely makes me laugh a lot. They do say in that conversation, though, the mayor says clearly that Jason's body was cremated. So, does it matter? Not really. But I just thought it was an interesting piece. Like, I think they were trying to illustrate, like, Jason is dead. He's not coming back. And that was that decision at the time. And they were sticking to it. Like, no, we cremated Jason. He is dead. You see him at the end as a ghost, passing on, becoming Tommy, I guess, maybe. Who knows what that means. There is nothing left of him. He is dust. You remember, he picks up the ashtray and he's like, this is what Jason is. And it's like telling the audience, like, Jason is gone. Clearly that doesn't happen in the sixth one, but I just thought it was interesting that they have him cremated in this one. And I really like the actor who plays Tommy. I don't think he would have fit the tone of the sixth one. I think Tom Matthews plays the goofier role better than this kid may have been able to. Like, this is a more serious film. The sixth one is where the series starts to get silly. That's like the Nightmare on Elm Streets, the Chuckies, they all have that tipping point where they start falling more into the comedy, and 6 is where that happens. 5, like 1 through 5, is very serious and are trying to be scary and trying to be, straight up. And I really like his performance in this. He is, a tough, aggressive kid. He's all super, like, he takes his shirt off, he looks buff, he's ready to throw down, and I think he gives a very convincing, performance as a kid with mental issues. He looks like a fucking lunatic in a lot of the shots. Another thing with this is the deaths in this are more mean-spirited. And that makes sense because this isn't Jason who's just trying to clear out the campgrounds. This is a guy who is angry and wants revenge for the death of his son. So, something like Eddie's death when he throws the thing around and he's rapping and it's just painful. And then Demon's death inside the outhouse where he's just tormenting this guy and he's sticking the pole through and he's terrified out of his mind sitting there like, I don't know. Like, those deaths are more drawn out. Like, Jason's kills in the first, 2 through 4 are mostly just the people see him and they're dead. It's like quick fire. They turn and boom, they're dead. Boom, they're dead. Boom, they're dead. Like, there's no fear, basically, except for, like, the final chase scenes with the final girls. That's usually because the bodies have piled up so much you can't even hide them anymore, and they always stumble on them. They try to hide them as long as they can, and then it's like after there's 10 of them, they're like, well, shit, someone's going to find them, and it always ends up being the final girl. But yeah, it's just funny that, like, not funny, it's not funny at all, that the kills in this just seem to feel much different. And even though there isn't an abundance of them, one complaint I do have about this movie is that there's very little gore in this film. I think that this film would have been even better if the kills were shown more on screen. We see a little bit more aftermath type stuff. When Joey's cut up, you see his arm on his back, and you see when Tina is stabbed through the eyes, like, you see it later. You never see much of the death taking place. You only see, like, aftermath stuff. And even that is pretty weak. So, but the next one starts to pack on the gore again. So it's kind of like 4 is super gory, then 5 is tame, and then 6 is super gory again. So it's just, I think that might be another reason why people don't like this one as much, and I totally get that. Oh man, freaking Violet's dance scene. This is one of my favorite scenes in all of Friday the 13th. I love Pseudo Echo's His Eyes. Great song. The dance scene is really cool. It's just a well-shot moment. It always sticks out in my mind. It's one of my favorite scenes from this movie for sure, and one of my favorite scenes in the whole franchise. Robin has the trademark death. I've noticed that there is a trademark death. I don't know. I just kind of never put it together that there's always a fucking somebody is laying on a bed, grabbed from the top, stabbed from under the bed. I mean, I noticed it obviously, but like watching them back to back like this and writing it down, being like, oh my God, this happens like every single one of them. Reggie the Reckless, love the character, but he's a kid, so I totally get it. But his scream could give Jesse from Nightmare on Elm Street 2, which everyone gives shit to, a run for its money. That sounds like a little girl. And I love Nightmare on Elm Street 2. I'll say this in every video I have. I'm defend that movie to the day I die. And another thing that happens in this movie that has happened in almost every one of these, Pam goes in the house to hide, and a body is thrown through the window. The final girl hides in a house, and one of the victims from previous kill gets thrown through the window. And it's usually a character that we didn't see die on screen. So we were like, are they alive? Are they not? And then they come through the screen and you're like, oh, they're dead. And then we have, Pam falling on the ground and not being able to get up is just like, get up, Pam. But at the same time, look at the shoes she's wearing. What was she thinking? It is like mostly dirt and mud everywhere, right? Where she's at. She's out in she's out in the country. She's out, like, where was she thinking wearing these high heel boots? So I just find if I was just like, get up, Pam, then I'm looking at her feet like, can she? And then like the whole Jason versus the bulldozer scene is ridiculous. I take it for what it is, but it's like, he couldn't have just stepped to the right or the left. He just sits there and takes it. Come on, Roy. You're not, this isn't Jason. This isn't some mentally handicapped, person. This is an EMT. You should be a lot smarter than that. Why I love when they open up Roy's wallet to show Pam, like, doing the explanation to the audience of what happened, like at the end of Psycho, and they open it up and it's like, why would Roy have a picture of just himself? Who keeps a picture of just their face in their wallet? That's so Roy's self-absorbed as well. And how did they catch a picture of Jason in the newspaper? When he goes through the newspaper clippings, you see a clear shot of Jason standing there looking at the camera. Like, smile, Jason. Wait, take off your mask. I can't see your smile. Like, really? It's funny what they have to show the audience for them to get it. Like, and here's Jason in the newspaper. Oh, that's how he knew what he looked like. We didn't need to see Jason in the newspaper for them to explain why Roy knew what he looked like. But I guess maybe if they didn't, I'd be in this video right now being like, and how did Roy know what Jason looked like, huh? They should have explained. They did, and I'm giving them shit. Damned if you do, damned if you don't, I guess. The whole ending of this is weird to me. It's like a double fake out, I guess, because in the sixth one, although the sixth one ignores events that happen in this, with Jason being cremated and whatnot, they don't mention that Tommy kills Pam or had murdered anybody outside of, obviously, Jason and Roy. He's killed a couple Jasons now. But I don't know. Like, I don't know what to take of that ending. We have a fake out beginning with his dream sequence, and then we have a double fake out ending, and then we have a fake out killer. Like, I get why people don't like this movie. There's so many fake outs, and you don't even know what fake outs are even real fake outs. Like, did Tommy actually stand? Maybe he didn't kill Pam. Maybe he just thought about it and then he put the knife down. How the hell did he get Jason's mask? That would have been in police evidence. Like, does that really need to be? No, but it's like, how did he get Jason's mask? Come on. So when you see Jason's mask, you're kind of like, okay, this has got to be a fake out, but I guess it isn't. But then I don't know. I think it was just obviously the intention was to make him the next Jason. And when people freaked out about this, like they did Halloween 3, they were like, okay, we got to go back to our main villain, our main antagonist. So they did, and they just did away with this whole ending. But I think they were trying to do that. I think they were showing that Jason was at the foot of his bed. It was the ghost of him. He like disappeared, and then Tommy became him. Like, it was like transferring over, like the end of Halloween 6, the producer's cut, when the curse is transferred over to Dr. Loomis. So yeah, so getting into my last things here that I've been talking about. As I said, there's 22 deaths in this, but Jason doesn't kill anyone in this film, well, except for the 2 people at the beginning, even though that's a dream sequence. So that doesn't really count towards it. My favorite kill is, I think, Eddie's. You know, the belt strap around the eyes is just mean. I really like Junior's death too, with the motorcycle with the head chop off. But I'll go with Eddie's. There isn't a lot of great kills in this movie, and there's not a lot of gore, as I said. So this one's a little on the lesser side of me even doing this at all for a favorite kill, because I'm not crazy about any of the kills in this. And my favorite character, now this is one I've been waiting for since the beginning. This is my favorite character in the entire Friday the 13th franchise, all 12 films. Demon. I sang his song at the beginning. The damn enchiladas. My God, you're gonna get it, bitch. Do I love this fucking guy? I love his character. Wish he would have been in it more. He wasn't, but that's okay. I very much enjoyed every second I got of him, and I always look forward to seeing him. He always makes me smile. He always makes me laugh. Demon, rest in peace. Fuck yeah, I love that character. And finally, the hottest chick in this movie for me, even though there are some beautiful girls in this. Tina is a beautiful woman. They're all great, but my heart's with Violet. That dance alone, and she's just more my kind of style of chick, but all the girls in Pam and the redhead, I can't think of her name, but they're all beautiful. But yeah, Violet takes the cake on this one. So anyway, guys, this was a lot of fun to talk about. I can't wait to get to part 6 with the Jason Bond. Yeah, Jason Bond. That's the best way to say it. So, all right, guys. Till then.